Hello. I just finished up my Working Against Racial Bias module and activities, and this is going to be my video reflection. I just want to start out kind of just by saying that one of the first things we look at in our video journal write-up sheet is what did we learn about ourselves about completing this module? Um, I think first of all, I learned about myself that I'm fairly well-rounded. I'm fairly unbiased in a lot of my ways and a lot of my mannerisms. I actually grew up in a small town, and even though most people that grow up in small towns kind of have this real centered point of view, I kind of wasn't like that. My parents were really good with me, and they taught me to look outside of my own. Truthfully, when I was a kid, I wanted to grow up and play basketball. I wanted to be a rapper. I loved rap music. So I feel like I am fairly culturally diverse, and I also feel like I'm good for my students and for my small town because of my acceptance and the love that I feel for all those around me. One of the biggest pieces of information that struck me or that stuck with me is not necessarily how our students were treated, because unfortunately, I think in the education field, we can see when students are mistreated, and I think we can recognize that fairly easily if we're caring and if we're good teachers. But the thing that surprised me the most was that 87% of our teachers are white or Caucasian. I did not know that. I honestly felt that um, in some of the inner city areas or some of the highly dominant areas that are possibly African American or Hispanic, I almost figured that they would kind of take that population over. So I'm very surprised in that number. However, looking at our society and our cultural impact in the world, it does make sense to see that 87% is mostly Caucasian and white. And I think a lot of that is kind of due to the unfairness and some of the misjudge and mistreatment that we have shown to some of these other students. And maybe they don't want to become educators, or maybe they don't feel like they can provide because of something that happened to them in their lives. Um, how will I use this knowledge to shape my professional practice? I truthfully already do it. I work in a behavioral intervention room. So even though my students are actually, I've had some students that are Native American, I've had some Asian students, so I've had some that are culturally diverse, but our students are looked upon as like outsiders. And so as soon as I came into that realm of behavioral intervention and SPED, my first goal was to change the outlook, to change the way that people saw my students, because truthfully, they may have had horrible home lives, or they may have been drug babies, or they may have come from these situations that we just don't even understand or can't fathom, but they still deserve that respect. They still deserve to be treated just like everybody else. And again, I'm not in an inner city area, so it's not like I have a large bilingual or African American group, but I do deal with a lot of Native American students and families, and I have seen bias and I've seen negative talk and just negative feelings cast upon them. And so I have seen that even just working, even though they're English speaking, but even working with our native students, and I have seen that from some of my other teachers, and truthfully it's hurtful, especially when I see these kids struggling because they don't have the support at home, and all of these, or I shouldn't say all of them, but some of these other teachers, all they want to say is, well, they're not going to learn, that's their home life, it's not going to change. But you know what, that is that tiny little mentality, and I hate that. I want to be outside of that mentality. Yeah, you know what, maybe their parents aren't the most supportive, maybe they don't know how to be supportive, we don't know that, and that's what we need to address. I'm sorry, I'm kind of on a little tangent here, but I really feel that in my school, there is a large population of students that are looked down upon because of their home life, not because of what they do at school, not because of what they can provide in that classroom. And I do see that on my campus. I see students that are very sad. I see students that don't play together because one is American and the other is Indian or Native American. Um, I also see fundraisers and ice cream socials and all these different things where they separate each other out. And for me, I sit back and just say, why? Why are we separating each other? Why are we not together? Look at what's going on around us. It is so absolutely horrible right now out in our world to be different. I mean, you almost have to just be an ostrich and put your head down. Well, I don't want that. I want you to put your head up. I want you to be proud of being different. Okay. I want you to show your culture to me. I love talking with my native students and hearing their language. It's great. They grew up, their families, their culture started my town. Why would I not want to learn from them? Okay. We've kind of pushed them out. Yeah, absolutely. But you know what? Now it's time to bring back. Let's listen to them. Let's see what they have to say. It's really neat actually talking to some of the elders because you hear some really, really cool history about the small towns and the areas where you grow up. For me, that's what I love to teach. I love to teach the real life. Education is very important to me, but real life is the biggest. Those life lessons, those ways that we can get to each other's hearts and care, show compassion, love each other. Just absolutely love that. Um, I am not a fan of the word privileged. I do understand my skin color lends to that term, but I grew up in a mobile home. I struggled my entire life. My parents struggled. I was held back in school. I have fought and worked very hard for everything that I have achieved. So at times I do feel very offended by that word privilege. And I do understand the situation that it comes from, but I have to say that hurts my feelings. I really liked that a lot of this module talked about how we are shaped by our culture and our communities, because that is absolutely true. My culture is going to be different than even in the next town in Fresno. We call them valley kids or city kids, right? Flatlanders, if you will. But they grew up differently. They were raised differently. Doesn't mean there's anything not to respect or not to learn from them. It's just a little bit of different culture. And really, we need to learn from each other. Like I said, I love listening to my native kids speak. I love hearing them sing and dance, and their faces just come alive. When they can tell you about themselves, it takes everything else off the table. If they're having a bad day, if they've just failed a test, if you can find a way to just address and be like, hey, let's talk about you for a minute. Hey, how was that powwow last weekend? Hey, did you get to dance? Did you get to wear your headdress? What happened? That right there is going to change an attitude. Um, I think that teaching about others' cultures, showing videos, activities, working in groups and pairs, also bringing in guest speakers, I think is a great way to do it. Again, on my campus, we have native speakers come in and they talk about the different tribes and what it was like, to live and to survive. And you can learn a lot from that. I think that that is also a way that we open up and we can learn about these other cultures without those blinders on. We can take those blinders off and we can see what's important and what's so special about these about them. I shouldn't have said these people. I apologize. So a critical incident in my life. That's kind of a tough one. I've had some incidences. I'm adopted. I was adopted when I was very, very young. I was about 6 months old and I was adopted by my aunt and uncle. I never met my real mom, so that has definitely been in my mind. I was held back in seventh grade. That has kind of stuck with me. I went through major breakup in college that flunked me out of school. But I have to say, the one thing that has absolutely changed me, changed my mind, and really flipped my mindset is getting married. When I put that ring on, there was a sense of pride, respect, and a sense of that I need to step up. I need to move forward. I need to be responsible for my wife and my future family. I really stepped back and took a look at what I was doing in school, what I wanted to do, where I was working. And truthfully, I have used being married and having my children as a driving point for me to succeed in college. I've never had straight A's even in school. Even in grade school, I never had straight A's or B's. So I graduated from Fresno Pacific with honors at a 3.9 GPA. Right now at National for my program, I'm sitting at a 3.9, and I have to say that this sense of pride that I have to take care of my family has driven me to be the best that I can be. I try to be the best example I can at work because I look now at my students as my kids in a classroom. How would I want that teacher to react to them? How would I want them to learn with the other students? Especially in this COVID time, this is really hard as as a teacher that cares. I love high fives. I love hugs. Um, I love all of that stuff. So for me, it's kind of hard stepping back, but I do have to say that once I got married, it really changed my mindset. I really turned it on, and I have not looked back since then. And truthfully, I think that that has been such an amazing change in my educational experience. I think, if anything, the parallel between my critical incident and possibly the parallels that we've learned, there's not much on that one. However, excuse me, if I were to go back to say when I was adopted into a family that lived in a podunk hillbilly town, if you will. So my life could have taken a different turn right there. My parents, however, kept me well rounded. They kept me grounded. I learned to love everyone. Like I said, I grew up wanting to be a basketball player and sing rap music. Um, I don't think anybody from my small town of Course Gold has ever done that, right? So I really did enjoy this model. I think this is also something that we can take and modify and even show our students depending on their age group. I think it's a way to help that uncomfortable become comfortable. I hope you enjoyed my video journal. Um, Thinking about my family and my success makes me want to cry. I never thought I would be here. I never thought I would. I never thought it. I never thought I would graduate with honors. I never thought I would have a master's degree. And I do. I owe it all. I mean, I owe a lot to my faith and my religion, but my marriage has just, it has really skyrocketed. Um, Thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed it, and I look forward to talking to you later. Thank you.